Check out what I've got lined up for you. I'm going to show you 3 different ways to straighten a rear derailleur hanger. One of them is using the professional tool in the workshop. Another one's how I do it every day in the workshop when I can, because it saves a lot of time. And the final one's a bit of a hack. And if that's not enough, at the very end, I'm going to show you how to get yourself home safely if you bend your derailleur hanger out on the road. So buckle your toe straps, let's get on with it. You've just got to become the bike. Now, a bent derailleur hanger can cause your gears not to work properly, no matter how much you try and index them. But it can also cause lots of other problems, like the frame getting damaged because the chain goes off on the wrong side, or the derailleur going into the back wheel and writing off the wheel, the frame, and your day. So let's take a look at how you can tell if your derailleur hanger is bent and what you can do to sort it out. So the derailleur hanger is there for the derailleur to screw into on the rear of the bike. Now, on older bikes like steel ones and the original kind of aluminium frames, that was actually part of the frame, and if you bent it, you could straighten it up, but sometimes it would break, especially if it was aluminium. But on more modern bikes, if they're aluminium or carbon, they have what's called a replaceable hanger on it, and it just bolts onto the actual frame. Now, that's there to snap or bend if you have an accident or the rear derailleur takes a knock, and it can just be taken off and replaced. And it saves you having to buy a new frame, because otherwise the frame would snap or be damaged. Right, so a good way to see if your derailleur is straight or not without any professional tools is to use a ruler. And you just hold it up against the rear mech and you'll be able to see whether it's out of line with the cogs or not. So then you just want to get your ruler and put it up against the jockey cage and just check that it's straight and in line with the cogs above it. The first thing I'm going to show you is how it will be done in a workshop where they've got the professional tools to do it. Now, there's lots of different tools like this that have gauges already on them. I just use my old Campagnolo one and a ruler. So when you're using a hanger straightening tool to straighten the hanger up, and you're using the wheel to reference, a lot of people think that you need a straight wheel, and that's just not so. What you need to do is use the same reference point in 4 different planes. So basically at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And the obvious thing to use is the valve stem, because it's the easiest one to find. So the first thing you want to do when you go to straighten a rear derailleur hanger is put the least amount of tension on the derailleur as possible, because you're going to have to unscrew the derailleur to take it out of the bike. So basically you want to put it into the 2 smallest cogs. So the smallest one at the front and the smallest one at the rear. So you want to get your Allen key and put it into the fitting bolt for the derailleur and then start to unscrew it a little bit. Now what I do is I pitch it back up so that the B screw isn't really pushing against the tab on the derailleur hanger, and screw it out until it just comes off the bike. And then you just let go of it and let it hang down by the bottom of the bike. So you want to get your derailleur hanger tool and screw it into the hole where the derailleur came out of, and then keep tightening it up until it butts right up against it, nice and firmly. Now with the tool screwed in, you just want to get your ruler and go around the wheel and measure off that to work out which way it's out of plane. And find the valve. Use the same reference point in 4 different planes. 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. There's a lot of leverage on a derailleur hanger tool, so you just want to bend it nice and easily so you don't damage anything. You can now see that the derailleur hanger has been straightened up and all the gaps from the hanger tool are exactly the same. Now it's worth remembering that while you're trying to straighten up a derailleur hanger with a derailleur tool, that the measurement you've got there, or the gap that you've got, only has to be halved to get it right. It's exactly the same as truing a wheel. Say your gap's like 2 centimeters at one end and it's flat on the other end where it touches the rim, then what you need to do is actually take 1 centimeter out of that, because you're taking 1 centimeter off one end and you're adding 1 centimeter to the other, and that will get it back into the straightness. Okay, when you're using the derailleur hanger tool and you think you're done, everything's straight, always check in 4 different places, so up and down on the vertical and along on the horizontal, that it is still in straight in all those positions. Okay, now the hanger's all straightened up, you want to just screw the tool out of the hanger and then you want to refit the derailleur. But as you do that, you want to pitch the derailleur backwards a little bit so the B screw doesn't interfere with the tab on the bottom of the hanger. Now if you don't do this, it could get jammed and you'll actually strip the threads of the hanger. With the derailleur back on the bike, we can just get the ruler, put it up against the jockey cage and check in another way that it's definitely straight. And you can just see where it lines up with the cogs at the top. Now your derailleur hanger usually gets bent because you've had a stack. And you've had a stack on the drive side of the bike, so the rear derailleur has taken some sort of impact and it's bent in. Now there are other ways you could do it. You could just get it knocked on something, or it might get damaged in transport. But it usually is just bent in that way towards the wheel because the force has come from the outside of the bike rather than it being bent out like that. But it can be bent out like that, and if you overcook it while you're trying to straighten it, then you could have to straighten it back the other way as well. But you should take caution when you're straightening your derailleur hanger, because you don't want to bend it too far and then have to bend it back, because the metal fatigues every time it gets bent. You know, it's been bent in already, and now you're bending it back, so that's twice. If you bend it out too far, then you bend it back again, that's 4 times. And it's just going to get weaker every time you do that. So the first thing I'm going to say is don't go at it like a bull in a china shop. Just do it gradually until it gets straight. But the main thing is, before you actually try and straighten your hanger, make sure you can get another one. And it's a good practice or a good idea, even as just a consumer, to have a replaceable derailleur hanger for your bike at all times as a spare, because you never know when it's going to happen. You know, you might be away on a trip somewhere, you can't get one. And it is really quite an easy job just to change it rather than have to straighten it up. There are a lot of different derailleur hangers, and when I say there's a lot, I mean there's like thousands of different ones, and you just can't interchange them one from another, so you want to make sure you get the right one. And the other thing to remember is that not all derailleur hangers are made equal. Some of them will bend because they're made of softer aluminium than others, and you can just straighten them up, and some of them just snap. It's worth noting that you could just, you know, try and straighten it and it will just snap. If you want to see just how many derailleur hangers there are, you can take a look at the wheels manufacturing site. I'll put a link down in the description. And this is not a definitive list, there's still loads more. But this is also a good place to check what derailleur hanger you need before you go ahead and try and straighten it, to make sure you can get the right one. Okay, I'm going to give this hanger a straighten up the way I do it in the workshop without taking the derailleur off. I'm just going to use a T-bar Allen key and a rag so I don't get my hand dirty. Okay, so the way I do it in the workshop to save time by not taking the derailleur off and obviously making it more cost effective is I just get a rag and I put it behind the pivot bolt so I don't get my hand dirty, and I put the Allen key into the Allen key screw where it comes out of, or you know, the screw that screws it in, and then I just bend it out, putting force on the Allen key and on the pivot bolt at the same time. It's not quite there, so I'm going to bend it again. Right, there we go. Get a ruler, hold it up against the jockey wheel, and you can see that's not far out. Whatever you do, don't just try and bend the derailleur cage from here to straighten up the hanger, because what you might do is actually bend the cage itself and not straighten the derailleur hanger up, but you might also just wear out this pivot here. So some other ways you can straighten it out, if you haven't got the derailleur hanger tool, especially if it's a steel frame, is you can get yourself an adjustable spanner and just put that on the actual drop out and just tweak it out like that, or you know, round like that. And while I was in the process of making this video and doing some research, I looked at some other ways that people were doing it, and I worked out that actually you could do it with something that you've got in your workshop or just an old wheel. And so you want to get a quick release axle and put a few nuts on it. I've locked 2 together here at the end to give me space there to screw that into the actual derailleur hanger. And then I've got another one here on the end, which once I've screwed it in, I'm going to tighten that up to lock it in place. So I just get my rear wheel axle, the 10mm axle, with the 2 lock nuts on it. And then what I do is I just screw that straight into the derailleur hanger until it comes out the back, and then I put a lock nut on the back of that. And then I just get something like a ring spanner to give me a little bit of leverage to bend it up or down, depending on which way it needs to go. Now, no matter which way you decide to straighten the hanger, it's worth noting that you should really have the rear wheel in the bike, because a lot of these derailleur hangers are only held on by a couple of little tiny screws, you know, like M3 or M2, and you could just rip it straight out of the bike. The clamp of the wheel, whether it be a through axle because it screws into the derailleur, part of the derailleur hanger, or an actual quick release, or even a bolt on, will actually support the top of the hanger where the wheel goes in, and therefore you're only bending it from below where the wheel is, rather than just trying to prise it off the bike. Now I know I say it again and again, but if you've been fiddling around with your gears and you think you're done, recheck them, make sure they work in the stand or, you know, on the road somewhere before you actually go out on a ride, because there's nothing worse than getting out there and finding out the gears don't work. As always, if you're getting benefit from this video, please hit the like button down the bottom and share it with anyone you think would benefit from watching it. Now, there's a pretty high chance that you didn't bend your derailleur hanger in the workshop. Now, you might have done if your bike got knocked over or hit by something there, but where it's most likely to have happened is when you're out on the road. Now, a lot of people think that you can just straighten it out while you're out on the road, and sure, you can have a go if you want. But as there's a fairly good chance that you could snap it, I'm going to show you what you should do just so you can get yourself home and then straighten it up when you've got the opportunity to get a replacement one if you need one. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Now it's time for your prize. So you're out on the road, you have a bit of a crash, or your bike gets knocked over somewhere, like at the coffee shop or something like that, and you get back on the bike, the gears don't work, and you realise that your derailleur hanger's bent. Don't try and straighten it out there, because what you'll find is that, it might be 1 times out of 10, but you always want to be able to ride home with your bike. You don't want to have to get a train home, get a taxi home, walk home. So I'm going to show you what to do if you do bend your derailleur hanger while you're out on the road, just to get you out of trouble and get you back to the workshop. So what you should do if you're out on the road, away from the workshop, and you bend your derailleur hanger, is not try to straighten it. What you should really do is just do something so you can get yourself home safely without your derailleur going into your back wheel. So the obvious thing to do is to just adjust your limit screws. So just adjust it so it can't go up into the smallest gear, the largest cog, or if it does go that far, that it won't go over the top, and that'll get you home. Now your gears might not be functioning properly, like as far as indexing in all the gears, but you'll have 2, 3 or more gears that you can use just to get back to base. Let me know in the comments below why you want to learn pro bike mechanics.